pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the planning board for September 16, 2021. Since we're kind of a little pressed for time already, I'm just going to briefly go through the agenda as it was posted on the town website and the town board. Number 1 is Lord Avenue site plan and minor subdivision. Number 2, Galavan minor subdivision. Number 3, Changing Visions of Energy, CBE North America, referral from the town board. Number 4, Berry minor subdivision. And number 5, Nato Pato LLC site plan and minor subdivision. Our first item on our business agenda is the review and approval of the minutes of September 2nd. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those, and are there any corrections, additions, or changes that have to be made? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as they've been submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, first on our agenda is the Lord Avenue property, site plan and minor subdivision. Just to, before you get into your presentation, we'll just update on this. We had last meeting, we had done the seeker review, and that was taken care of. The only item outstanding was the street light height that you went before the ZBA last Monday, was it? Thursday.
This
right?
this Monday.
This Monday. And there wasn't a decision made, so they have referred this to a special meeting on the 23rd to render a decision on the light height of your poles and so forth.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, then. Let's,
Yeah, so like the chairman said, we were in front of the zoning board on Monday. Our initial variance request was for a 6-foot height differential from 15 feet to 21 feet. We provided a second alternative of just 21 foot poles in the front of the store, so we can get adequate distance at the entrance and 15 feet everywhere else. They felt like that resulted in too many poles within the parking lot area, so they asked for a additional option that we're looking at right now. Hoping to have that done for tomorrow. I can get a copy off to the ZBA and Wayne for you as well, to just have the interior lights of the parking lot to be 21 feet tall and the perimeter lighting and wall packs at 15 feet. So that's the alternative that we are preparing for the ZBA.
can I ask one question on that?
Yep.
If I recall correctly, going to 21 feet would eliminate so many poles, like 12 poles. Is that correct?
Correct. It was 27 to 15, so 12 poles. Yes.
Okay. Now, these two alternatives, how many poles are you going to have? Back to the 27? Or is there going to still be a reduction? Or not?
No, there's still going to be a reduction,
But not 12?
but not 12. I'm guessing maybe by half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Also, I just want to go through a couple intros real quick. Walt Littman, MJ Engineering, representing the applicant, Lord Avenue Properties LLC. Rich Rosen is here from the applicant. We have Elena Moran, VHB Transportation, and we also have Tyler Sterling here tonight from Hannaford.
Okay.
what came up in conversation with Mr. Gilchrist after speaking with the ZBA, we still wanted to come tonight, even though we didn't have our variance determination, to still go through the site plan approval process conditions, understanding that we can't take action tonight, but at least get that process started tonight. So with the special meeting next week, we can hopefully go in from the variance ZBA meeting right into the planning board. But before we get into that, there's just a couple things that we do want to go over. One, for instance, is the construction truck routing. That came up during seeker. The applicant spoke with one contractor budgeting purposes, and originally it was going to be coming from a site on the north. Now that the project is getting close to being finalized, they went out, got actual numbers from contractors, and they actually received a number that was lower than who they spoke to for budgeting purposes. It's Spain Excavating. So we just want to go through the new route. It's still going to be a right in, right out as if it was before, but the site is now coming to the south. You're taking a right out, coming to the south 66, to the trucking vendors, back up 355, coming up back in through here, back right into the site. So I know that's something that came up. We just want to let you know that's where we stand right now. It is still in the plan that we discussed at the last meeting and several others. We're still going to meet with DPW, the contractor, trucking company, prior to commencing the construction, just to confirm everything. But just wanted to be forthcoming to let you know that's where it's anticipated at this point. One other thing we just want to bring to light here, during the seeker determination, there was one comment on there regarding a left-hand turn restrictions for all vehicles coming out of the access onto Lord Avenue. We just want to discuss that a little bit more tonight if we can. I'll bring Elena Moran up there just to go through her analysis of that. I did just pass out, and hopefully Chuck just gave you a hard copy of the email that was submitted earlier this week regarding the possible alternative to the full left turn restriction. As you know, as we went through this process, we did end up putting a no left turn for trucks coming out of the access road. And then, like I said, during seeker review, it ended up being for all vehicles, and that's something that we would like to discuss further tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, Alana Moran with VHB. And what you have in front of you is, the kind of the map of the area under discussion with regards to cut-through traffic. Certainly something we've been talking about the entire project process from the perspective of the neighborhoods that are on Lord Ave to the west, as well as the ones that are on Lord Ave to the east of the proposed project. What we're requesting is that instead of the access restriction at the driveway, that instead it be allowed to have general vehicle traffic turn left exiting the site. The anticipation is that there's going to be roughly 5% of traffic traveling to or from the neighborhood that's destined for the Hannaford itself. The goal here has seemingly been to minimize cut-through traffic in the neighborhood. traffic that is already on those roadways, that is already using that system, but isn't actually part of the neighborhood. By actually providing that left turn restriction for drivers that would be exiting Lord Avenue, the ones that would be turning left out of the site, the folks that are really being inconvenienced are the people who live in the neighborhood. This is not actually going to impact cut-through traffic because anybody who's on the road and actually kind of traveling through the neighborhood isn't exiting Hannaford. They're just on the road itself. So one of the things that would happen if the site were restricted and there was no left turn for passenger vehicles exiting the site is that somebody who lives on Tucker Avenue would have to come out to the traffic signal at Lord and Hoosick, turn left onto Hoosick Road, and then turn left into the neighborhood. So increasing what are primarily undesirable movements, a left turn from a major road like that, as opposed to just being able to come out onto Lord Avenue itself, turn left onto Lord Avenue, and then make that immediate right turn into Tucker Avenue, onto Hughes or Derrick, and Tarbell. So those neighbors are definitely being inconvenienced. They have the benefit of having a store right across the street, but can't actually get to it, I think is an important piece of what would happen to those neighbors there. Similarly, for the residents living more in the Oneida Avenue neighborhood, while for those individuals coming out and turning right onto Hoosick and then turning right into the neighborhood is not, that's not as big a deal. It's just a matter of having to do that instead of being able to just turn left out of the site and go to my home if I so choose. This way there's options for residents who live to the west of the Hannaford. And again, we're really expecting that site traffic. So we looked at 2 peak hours, right? We looked at the PM peak hour and the Saturday midday peak hour, which are the higher generators for a supermarket. And what we're talking about entering and exiting, going to and from the neighborhood is 15 trips during the PM peak hours. So 8 trips entering, 7 trips exiting. So that's 1 trip about every 4 minutes on that neighborhood area. And then during the Saturday peak hour, it's 19 trips. So 10 entering, 9 exiting, 1 additional trip about every 3 minutes that's specifically associated with the Hannaford.
And the Lord Avenue intersection with Hannaford is unsignalized, uncontrolled.
It would be a
So
stop control.
it's a stop control on
Yes.
Lord Ave?
Stop control on the site access approach to it.
Right. So where I was headed was that the traffic coming off Hoosick has a somewhat uncontrolled left turn into the site.
So the site, so if you're coming from Hoosick and you're going to turn into the site, there is a left turn lane for that
Yep.
traffic.
But Lord Avenue would have the right of way through the intersection.
Yes, Lord Avenue has the right of way, correct.
Just as a clarification, I noticed you have what appears to be a full signal light at Oneida Avenue. I believe that is
You're correct. That's like a flashing, it's the fire station.
it's a fire station one,
Mhm.
okay, just as a clarification.
Yes.
Okay. The only comment I will make is probably the town at some basis is going to have to consider doing a local traffic only sign somewhere down by North Lake Avenue to balance that off, local
Right.
traffic only. And we talked about that too. So-
Right. I believe that was one of the things we talked about, the potential with the escrow account, that as
Yeah.
the town does the study, that's one of the options for the community to install is like you said, a local traffic only, or some stop bars at the intersection of Oneida with Genesee. Things just to hopefully to get people to pay a little bit more attention.
Right. Does anyone have any comments on this proposal here with the local traffic only versus no left turns entirely?
Do they,
I don't have too much of a problem with
they put a no trucks on Duncan Lanes to keep them out of the neighborhood? Or
I don't see why not. That's certainly something like, as far as the site is concerned, all site traffic has to head out to Hoosick Road, but I'm sure we could work with the town.
I was going down and I saw a Sickway Creamery truck coming out on Otsego Avenue the other day. So it's off your site. It might be something the town might want to look into.
Maybe when the light is installed at Hoosick and Ward and that intersection is improved.
Right.
Wise,
Mhm.
they'll benefit from that intersection versus at Seco.
Wayne, do you have any comments on this?
I do. I think what they are proposing is reasonable. I did send it to our traffic guy down in Westchester, and he concurs that it's reasonable. He did say that by restricting that left turn, you don't know what the real cut-through traffic's going to be because you've already restricted that traffic. So if you do allow a left turn, it'd be easier to analyze after post-construction. And that's what he said, that you can include that in the analysis of how many people are turning left and where they're going. So I think it's best for a post-analysis kind of review if we allow that. And then if the amount of traffic that's making that maneuver is significant, then the applicant, we could put a condition that the applicant, well, maybe not a condition, but based on the post-construction analysis, may have to put a left turn prohibition in there.
I can
Does that make
understand
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Made sense to me, anyway.
And it's certainly a good starting point.
Yeah.
So we like it, you know.
Andy, do you have any comments on this as far as a condition?
We'll just have to work on specific language for it.
Okay,
I do have, well, we're just going to want to make sure, as Wayne said, that we're not creating a deferral of environmental impact review under seeker.
yeah,
If the board is moving in this direction, I'll also advise you're going to have to do an amended seeker determination because the no left turn was included in the seeker determination you made at your last meeting. So, and I'm going to need a little bit of time to work on that language with Wayne. So if this is the direction this board is going and Wayne is supportive of that direction, and the board is inclined to hold a special meeting next Thursday, the first order of business would be to address an amended seeker determination.
okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And just one quick thing too, if we're gonna modify seeker for this proposal of local traffic only, do we have to do it for the trucking as well? Because we were pretty specific. I haven't seen the seeker resolution.
Only indicated that the trucking plan submitted by the applicant would be complied with.
With UDW?
And that you'll meet with the town,
Yep.
with Wayne, with DOT. So I don't think that the truck route needs.
So we're good there. I just thought.
I'll
cleaning
review,
stuff up.
I'll review that with Wayne, but I don't think so. I think I'm more concerned about the left turn restriction language.
Okay.
And at what point are we gonna establish the amount for the escrow lien? Have we talked to, because I'm assuming you're gonna have Colliers do the
I
study.
believe we're
They
trying to
may.
address that.
It's whoever the town wants to do it, but
Is that part of some of the conditions that we
Correct.
are going to
Yeah.
propose? We're going to review some of the conditions as we move forward tonight. just so you're, aware of where we're going to go with our proposal on this.
Okay.
As far as the analysis, we did come up with a number for escrow. I think we need to discuss whether additional escrow should be put in to the account for any mitigation measures, but we can discuss that.
All right, do you want to review this draft right now? Andy, or?
Sure.
Okay. Andy has proposed as a
You can keep.
draft
Yeah,
site
you
plan
can keep one.
conditions,
You can pass it down. Go
which
through
we
it
would
now.
move forward with at the next meeting on the
Oh, I see.
23rd.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So we'll review that. If there's any questions on that, certainly ask, and
Yeah.
we'll try to address it.
Would there be a chance that we could also see? a copy
No,
of
this
the
is at
draft
this
as you're
point,
going?
they're draft.
Just their
for
draft, okay.
discussion. Yep. Thank you.
Russ has got two. Here we go.
I was gonna say, this guy here.
I got one.
It's a lot of highlight.
Okay.
So this was simply based on review of the record. Wayne and I reviewed that, have reviewed this with Russ as well. But again, these are in draft form only and for discussion purposes only tonight. So these are a series of suggested conditions on any action on the site plan. First one, kind of taking it in sequential order, is compliance with the plan for truck routing during the project fill operations. Right turn only off Hoosick when entering the project site. Right turn only when leaving the project site and entering Hoosick Road is recommended, but indicating the applicant and trucking contractor must coordinate with the building department, the town building department, with the planning board, review engineer, and New York State DOT prior to the start of fill operations regarding the preferred truck route onto Hoosick Road when leaving the project site. And the applicant and trucking contractor shall comply with all requirements of New York State DOT for truck access and exit onto Hoosick Road. So that was simply to identify there will be a confirmed truck route overall, but the focus for the planning board on site plan condition is in and out from Hoosick Road onto Lord Avenue into the project site. And lastly, no town roadway except that limited portion of Lord Avenue from Hoosick Road into the project site entrance shall be utilized for truck routing in connection with the fill operations. And that was really designed to say nothing through the neighborhoods, okay? Is that still going to be accurate with the amended truck route that no other town roads will be utilized? That's subject to check. Wayne, you should coordinate with
Yeah,
them.
and that could also cover any other town roads if they wanted to take other routes. So in the event, a truck goes rogue and wants to cut over South Lake Avenue,
Right,
Yeah. That would cover that.
okay. So that dealt with the trucking for the fill operations. Okay. Secondly, there was discussion about limitations on days and hours of operation for the fill activities. This is really subject to discussion, whether the board wants to consider limiting days and hours, whether you'll defer to DOT on days and hours. Wayne, you certainly thought DOT permit may establish those limitations.
Yeah. Yeah, DOT may put hours of operation in the permit as a condition. From your experience,
There shouldn't be any DOT permitting for this particular project since access is to and from Lord Ave. The DOT doesn't need to permit anything.
Well, you're doing work in the DOT right away, you need a permit. Yeah.
Yes, as part of the signal piece of it, that is part of the, but that's not part of,
Not part of the truck.
that's not part of the truck, no.
So what I'm being told, and again, we'll double check and make sure when we have our meeting, but DOT is basically weighing in saying there's no permitting for the truck, and as long as the vehicles are inspected and legal and not overweight and that they have the right to use Route 7 as a trucking access.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll confirm that again too when we have a meeting.
Well, if that's the case, then it's something the board should consider. Not from a Hoosick Road trucking perspective, but from a site fill perspective. And those trucks will be coming in and filling and dropping and driving back out again. And if there's any issue with kind of days and hours of operation, just give that some thought over the next time before the meeting. And that kind of gives rise to, is the board interested in pursuing a special meeting in a week's time, and at least for this project, having that be a joint meeting with the zoning board?
I think there was a poll taken and I think there was a
Okay.
forum that could be established.
Only one person said they could not make it.
Right, so there'll simply need to be confirmation with the board setting a special meeting for next Thursday.
Right.
So between now and then, those issues about days and hours of operation, certainly for the fill activities, can be considered.
Okay.
These can be discussed and finalized, certainly, at your meeting on the 23rd.
Excuse me, I believe this subject came up during one of the planning board meetings, and we discussed Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, same hours on Saturday, no Sundays, and no holidays. But you guys are free to come up with whatever you want, but I know we had that discussion.
I think I'd have to possibly agree with you that I seem to recall that, but I'm not sure whether it was something that was,
Not to speak out of turn, but I imagine your trucker's gonna want to start earlier than that.
But I think the 9 came from the board.
I think it was attempting to get past the AM peak. I know.
what would you think would be a reasonable hours? I mean,
I'm assuming that the fill operation is going to start before the traffic signal's operational. Is that correct?
Yes.
So yeah, I would say after the AM peak in the morning would be the least disruptive, and for safety reasons too. Trucks taking a left or even taking a right out of there from a dead stop they're going to come out real slow.
So you think?
AM peak is what? Roughly 7 to 9?
7 to 9.
Yeah, so I think 9 o'clock would be a reasonable hour.
Can you
Okay.
leave it to the same committee that we set up for the right turns, the DOT, you and
Well, it sounds as if, at least from the applicant thus far, DOT is not really, there's no permitting. I'm not sure there's anything there to establish hours, and
I think if Fane's a contract, he starts at 6 in the morning, but
At least.
he'll do it, yeah, he'll do whatever he has to.
right. And again, this is within the board's discretion, but another factor, of course, is that they will be down in the field with trucks filling at 6 in the morning, with trucks pulling in, dropping. It's the gates, and then pulling out. That has to be considered too on noise impacts to the, Neighbors.
7 o'clock's reasonable.
well, again, that's something for the board to consider if you want to impose.
7 to what, you think? 7 to 4?
Yeah, I think they stop at 3, but I think 7 to 4. Get a lot of dirt to move.
And you say Monday through Friday and Saturdays? Or or not?
I don't know.
I think Saturdays will be disruptive, so.
Well, they may find that moving along Hoosick Street on a Saturday is not cost effective,
Yeah.
but because they'll be sitting in traffic
Yeah, I
a
think the
portion of
peak
the
on
time.
Saturday is probably different than it is Monday through Friday. But as it's written right now, it's 2:04. No, it just says shall be, so.
So those are some things we don't need to decide this evening, but we raised that as an
Okay,
issue for the board to consider.
okay.
Next is certainly compliance with the stormwater plan, compliance with DEC's general stormwater permit for construction activities. I'll defer to Wayne on the issue of inspections.
Yeah, Andy had written to establish an escrow for construction of the stormwater facilities, and I commented that typically SWIP inspections and reporting are the responsibility of the developer or the builder. And they, bear the cost of doing the SWIP inspections. That those SWIP inspections include reporting once a week and after every 1-inch rainfall. They have to be done by a certified stormwater professional. Bill Bradley, as the MS4 stormwater coordinator, certainly will be interested in the construction of this and the compliance with the SWIP. So I think there's enough oversight on that. If the town wanted, they could pay an independent engineer to make sure that it's constructed properly, but typically the town of Brunswick hasn't done that.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So that can be addressed. Wayne and I will work on some language on that. Now, that's somewhat out of order. If you'll jump down to number 7. This is simply a standard requirement of the town that a stormwater management facilities maintenance and easement agreement be executed. So on commercial site plans, the stormwater facilities remain privately owned and operated. The drainage district is not created for these commercial site plan projects, but there will be a requirement for the agreement and an easements provided to the town for access if needed. So that'll be a requirement. If we jump back up to 4, this talks about the escrow for the post-construction traffic counts. Wayne, I'll let you review that one.
I reviewed this with Phil Greeley. He's our traffic guy, and he said that the amount of $8,000 would be enough to adequately do a post-construction traffic analysis with counts. The $8,000 pays just for the post-construction traffic counts on the local streets and analysis of the data. I also said that if the board I guess this is where it gets kind of messy, but whether or not, should there be mitigation required based on the post-construction analysis? Who's responsible for that cost? I think that bears some discussion.
Okay.
It does, and quite frankly, I'd like to look at that issue with Wayne, but that's the concept where certainly it's appropriate to have an escrow set up for post-construction traffic counts and analysis. But if those that analysis results in the conclusion of we need to have some traffic calming devices, or we need to have A, B, and C done, like was discussed in an earlier Collier's letter about some options for traffic calming. That's the issue. Who would pay for that?
Right.
So,
To this list of streets should, after our just recent conversation about the turning lane, should Tucker Avenue be added or no? I think that's addressed on the Duncan Lane.
We could add Tucker.
I would suggest that because it seems to me that we had a couple of residents from Tucker.
Yep.
And they pointed out that there was no initial analysis of that street. So I'm all for that too. Adding Tucker Avenue to that.
We should probably add Oneida as well.
so that issue is, you give that some thought. I think I'll review it with Wayne. And for what it's worth, if the board is going in the direction of allowing passenger vehicle left turns out, the board goes in that direction, this post-construction traffic analysis even takes on more importance. And it's a balance between allowing that left turn to continue, but has to be offset by some traffic calming potentially within the neighborhood. That's one direction it could go, as opposed to simply saying, we'll reinstitute a no left turn restriction. So those are some things that I think, Wayne, you can give some thought to, and because that does dovetail with, well, if a left turn is allowed to continue, we may need to actually add some improvements within the neighborhood to address that. Even if it's a limited amount of increased cut-through traffic, that may be enough to warrant, in consultation with the highway superintendent, some traffic calming within the neighborhood. So Wayne, if you'd give that a little bit more thought, and we'll talk about it before the meeting next Thursday.
Let's hold on here a second. Isn't there a differentiation between the traffic impact of the light only versus now the light in the Hannaford? Didn't we get into some discussion about that when we were talking about things that could be done right now that the residents are complaining about? You know, as far as mitigating traffic and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So where do we draw the line between the responsibility of the applicant, between the light, just the impact of the light versus the light and the store?
Mm-hmm.
We do two analysis once the light's up, but the light's not going to be up before the store is. No.
Well, we'll see about that. That raises an issue in that this project was presented with a traffic light, is my understanding, with a traffic light being installed and operational on Hoosick Road to allow in and out to the store. And if you'll then jump down to 14 on this, for your consideration is installation of the traffic light at the intersection of Lord Avenue and Hoosick Road must be completed and operational prior to the CO being issued. That was my understanding. I'll defer to Wayne and the board, but this project kind of works with the installation of the traffic light there.
That's the way the traffic study was done, was with that light being operational and what the level of service of Hoosick Road and Lord Avenue was, so.
Do we know the status of that permit?
Do we know that? What's their?
Yes, the permit is in hand. And they do plan to do some work within the right of way this fall and then continue it in the spring. So they are going to try to get as much as they can done.
Is the light going to be operational this fall? No.
Not this year. No, they're just going to be doing, maybe getting some bases in and things like that.
Yeah.
The pole is ordered in time, it's a large lead time.
Yeah.
So it will drive over winter. And
You've
then
heard, right, you've heard that
the
issue.
limits.
You've heard that issue. What's the
Yep.
projected construction schedule and how does it dovetail with the light operation?
We will have to light up before we open the store.
Okay,
That makes sense then, because I
All
think
right.
that's how everything was analyzed.
all right.
But on your point, Russ, that's something that I do want to review with Wayne.
Okay.
Well, 5 will be amended then, based on the discussion this evening. This was the project driveway connecting to Lord Avenue. Must include signage and striping to prohibit left turns onto Lord Avenue. But this was originally set up to have post-construction traffic counts done, and that could be adjusted after. Based on your discussions tonight, that'll need to be addressed in the seeker determination, as well as Wayne and I will work on some language for this condition.
Okay.
Next, the parking lot light poles turned off following store closing hours, which are currently 11 p.m., except for limited lighting in the front of the store for safe access for overnight stock workers and cleaners. We've added that a site plan amendment is required for any parking lot light pole lighting after 11 p.m., but that's, again, completely within your discretion, and I think that was 11 p.m.
Yes, those are the proposed hours of operation. We typically leave them on for another 15, 20 minutes after that because the store closes.
That makes sense. And
People
you
running
can't,
there 5 minutes
absolutely,
too.
of course.
Coming out of the dark, so, but on or around 11, they typically shut off.
Or it could be, within X after store
Yeah,
closing.
we would be comfortable with that.
Perhaps we should add turning on so that we don't run into some issue where they turn on at 5 a.m., it's dark, and like I said,
Well, I
Somebody-
assume that would,
there's some complaint that
that
We're
would,
turning them
what-
on.
when does the store open and when?
The projected hours of operations are 6 a.m.
Okay.
I personally would feel comfortable with like off from 12 p.m. to 5 a.m., something.
I would agree with that.
Oh, we went over the stormwater agreement. 8, we need to complete the extension of the town sewer district to cover the project site. That's a town board function that will need to be procedurally completed and coordinated with town water department. Rensselaer County Department of Health and Town of Brunswick Water Department approvals for the water and sewer connections. That's needed. No construction activities, and this is not dealing with the fill. This is construction of the store on Sundays or legal holidays. And again, if you're inclined to put in restrictions on the hours for construction activities, that's within your discretion. This has been set up, again, for consideration of Monday through Friday and Saturday construction hours.
Any recommendations on that, Wayne? I mean, normally, these construction crews at least start at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 7 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah. Would there be construction on Saturdays? Or is that up to,
On the building?
Yeah.
Yes.
okay.
So again, those are some
Yeah.
some
Is that
things.
generally restricted to lesser hours than the normal work week?
Honestly, it varies.
Okay.
Sharon, I think, and if there's going to be conditions around this, it would be good to, if we could specify at some point the building would be entirely enclosed. So, to have internal workers, people, hanging drywall or doing things internal to the building that have no impact on the exterior, we would like to have greater flexibility on those, because there's no impact to the neighbors of those.
Okay. All right, we'll have to figure that out.
Okay. We will need easements for the water and sewer on there for the town water department. Compliance with all town of Brunswick requirements in connection with the proposed realignment of Lord Avenue. Now, I put in, I don't think any was anticipated on this project, but no blasting, given the proximity of the homes. So it looks like, Wayne, the one you added for 16, why don't you deal with 16 and 17?
16 is that the New York State DOT permit for work in the state highway right-of-way needs to be obtained.
And presumably that's what the road work,
That's
road
the
realignment?
connection to the road, right. The Lord Avenue connection to Hoosick Street and the CDTA. Aren't you pushing, aren't you? Is there a bus turnout there too? Or a bus stop? What,
There is a stop, but it's down.
and there are some improvements being made for that, correct? With crosswalk?
Yes, as part of the Planet Fitness project.
Oh,
But we'll be coordinating all of that.
there's some work in that sidewalk with the, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one, I just wanted to bring it up, whether or not the board would want independent inspection of the construction of the road, or if you feel comfortable that the highway superintendent can find the time to keep an eye on that construction. If the town wanted to hire outside inspection, then that cost should be borne by the applicant. Something to think about.
Yep.
And that's for the section of Lord Avenue from the New York State DOT right away to the driveway entrance, or to the expansion of Lord Avenue.
Right, the relocation of the town road, right? So from Route 7 to where it ties back into the existing road.
Is somebody going to be overseeing the fill-in project? Or?
Well, that's up to the town to decide if they want somebody to do that.
Isn't that normally the
Well, the building department has
Responsibility of the
some
building department?
responsibility, but
site plan inspections?
it's not part of a building permit inspection. Well, it kind of is, but it's not like the checklist, you know. A lot of times, the first time you do an inspection is the footings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
At that point, soil compaction tests are.
right. It's
way
too late
past
for that.
due.
Like, we're gonna have a third-party geotech engineer on site, because this is a ground lease where we own the property and we're building the pad, Hannaford's building the store. We have to have a third-party certification on all site fills and compaction provided to Hannaford, and then engineer sign off provided to Hannaford. We can copy whoever you want with all those.
Okay, so you wouldn't object if we put that as a condition of site plan approval?
Not at all.
Okay,
All right.
there's that.
He doesn't do Lord Avenue though, right?
No.
So that pretty much concludes the draft that has been prepared by Andy and amended by Wayne. Is there any other conditions that anybody wishes to consider in our final site plan conditions? I think they've covered just about everything.
The only other thing that I was running through my head was if we discuss some mitigation for the lighting, if the zoning board approves the higher lighting, did we talk about mitigation in terms of house side shield, or maybe it was another project? Maybe that was,
We are certified down shielded fixtures.
okay,
I think we put that in as a condition in site plan approval before. That the lighting must be down lighting and comply
Yeah.
with the dark sky
okay.
requirements.
So I'm fine with that.
Okay, then that pretty much completes the review of the draft. Is there any other questions? Just as a continuation of this, we would be discussing this at our special meeting on the 23rd, which is next Thursday. Our meeting will follow basically the ZBA meeting after they determine the waiver on the.
Right, so procedurally, how I think this would work, and this is a proposed special meeting for the planning board, would be jointly with the zoning board of appeals, limited to the Lord Avenue project. Both boards would open the meeting. And if this does proceed in the direction of an amended seeker determination, this board will need to act first. That will then allow the zoning board to complete its deliberation and presumably act upon the area variance for the light poles. And once that's completed, then this board can move forward and act on the minor subdivision and the site plan. And the zoning board thought it would be advantageous for both boards to meet and have all this discussion so each board member gets a chance to hear what the other board members are considering. I know the zoning board had a lengthy discussion Monday evening about the light poles and various alternatives and potential screening with some of the neighbors abutting Otsego and the project site. So hearing those things might actually be beneficial for the planning board when considering action on the site plan. But they thought that would be helpful just to have all the boards together and have that discussion.
Okay.
So that would be the procedure for next Thursday.
So that we will see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, second on our agenda tonight is the Galavan minor subdivision. And we do have a quorum now. I assume that Linda's going to recuse herself. So you're here to figure out whether or not this is a major or a minor.
Yeah, as you guys well know, my associate Jacob was here a month ago, third Thursday, and did the initial representation on this in my absence, and had indicated to me that you guys had kind of gone back and forth as to what should this be classified, a minor or major. And so I just wanted to come back tonight and try and clarify where we're at, what direction we're headed. I've got to let Mr. Gallivan know, give him an update, and try to move forward. Personally, I think it's a minor subdivision. This is creating, we had one original lot that was done in 2008, 3 new lots, that's 4 lots in the last 12, 13 years. And, I know we did a lot of work on the other side of the road here in the last few years, but this is Sean's property on the other side. It's a different deed, it's a different tax map parcel number, it's a different watershed. But I'm here to work with you guys, not against you. So let's figure out what we're doing and where we're headed, and whatever we got to do, we got to do. Just to kind of get you up to.
You said 2013 was the last time there was a subdivision on that side of the road?
Yes, and we created this big parcel around the old Galavan
Right,
home. Yeah, 2008 was this little house.
yeah.
2013 was this house. And now we're looking to do just these three. Two big lots and the
Yeah.
one.
So you're
one
talking
small
8
lot.
years ago was the last, basically. 2013?
Yeah, yes.
Is there still, was it Mr. Lewis owns the one house there and then he bought the lot next to it?
Yeah, Mr. Lewis owns this house, and we've done 2 different lot line adjustments on his deed. He purchased the rest of this frontage here on Smith Hill Road, and then right when Sean was getting ready to sell the family house to the guy that lives there now, Mike approached him, hey, can I get a little more? He wanted to own to the top of this hill. So Sean sold him this little triangle. I think I did that in 2018. Something like that.
But that was strictly a lot line adjustment. There wasn't
Did
any
he
additional lots.
merge that second lot in or is it still? a
Yeah, it's
separate
all
lot?
merged.
All one lot.
Yep.
Well, my initial opinion is I somewhat agree with you. It is 2 separate, parcels of land. The last really major, or I shouldn't say major, the last subdivision was back in 2013. It certainly is more than the 7 years that we address, waivers versus minor subdivisions. I don't have a problem with treating it as a minor, but I'm welcome to hear any comments from anybody else.
I guess I'd like to hear from Andy.
All right?
Well, I'll start and then I'm going to ask Wayne's input. All I'm going to advise you is that the fact that it's separate deeds is not legally determinative. The fact that it's on opposite sides of the roads, in my opinion, is not legally determinative. The touchstone here is whether this is part and parcel of one overall common plan or scheme of development. The number of years this has happened, I think, is a relevant point. But the concept is, regardless of the number of different parcels that could be involved, the fact that a road bisects, it was all owned by Sean Gallivan, correct? Common owner?
It is all owned by Sean Gallivan.
And that's a relevant point too. And and particularly, this is where I'll lateral off to Wayne, is from a stormwater perspective, and that's really what drives this, is if this is viewed as one overall, common plan or scheme of development, certain things are triggered, certain stormwater requirements could be triggered, and that's the concept. From a straight subdivision standpoint, there might be some more detail that's required on a major plat as opposed to a minor plat. But procedurally, they're both subject to a public hearing. They'll get reviewed by the board. The same subdivision standards are generally applicable. This really is a technical point on whether the stormwater is going to work. And you start adding more stormwater runoff. That's the concept of the kind of common plan and scheme of development. You get to a certain tipping point.
So in the last time that this application was before the board, I had requested the plan for the other side of the road so that I could evaluate that very issue. If this is part of a greater common plan, and then according to the stormwater regs, you have to include all of that into the SWIP and the stormwater design. You're telling me that the topography is different, it's different drainage area? Is that what you said, Brian?
Yeah, you know, all of this kind of drains into this stream here that runs through here. A lot of this over here runs kind of straight this way. There's just a very little bit of a hill here that runs to the ditch on this side of the road. Most of it sheds in this direction. I kind of see it as, you know, this is heading in the stream, which is headed to the.
Yeah, I think you
to the
gotta,
leach field. This is headed towards this wetland across the street and into that greater wetland.
I think you gotta have Steve put together a plan of the entire Gallivan property to evaluate that, whether or not it could be considered part of a common plan and how we should evaluate the stormwater.
Okay. And should that include? The lots that we just did on the other side of the
Yes.
road? Okay.
Well, all the lots. All those lots that were developed on the other side of the road. From day one.
Probably gotta include that open ground that he got off of, I think her name was Jane Burhans at the time, but.
Well, that's just it. I mean, he owns quite a bit of ground on the other side, so.
Well, he also subdivided it too, so
Yep.
more than once.
Yeah.
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 Well, he owns another piece that he hasn't.
That's what I'm saying, is he owns another piece from another deed and another.
Well, is it contiguous to this?
Yes. So what are you know, exactly, what are you asking us to do?
Well, I'm asking you to review the stormwater regs where it talks about, you know, a common plan and how it addresses the stormwater design. Because the way the regs are written, you can't, how do I put this?
I just want to be able to, and maybe I'll have
I
Steve
know.
call you.
I think
because
it's,
above and beyond my take.
well, Steve did the SWIP, and he
Yeah.
did the SWIP for the other side, so, yeah. Say if all of that property all drained over onto this side of the road,
Mhm. No, I get
that would
that.
be part of the common plan, and
Yeah.
you would have to design your stormwater for the whole,
So if you're building a
Site.
retention pond, it can handle the whole thing, not just what we're doing right now.
right, it's
In other
almost
words.
like segmentation of the stormwater design.
Right, that's the concept, and whether it's needed as part and parcel of that,
And
it's
Brian,
almost,
it may not turn out to be a
Right.
big deal,
Right.
but I just, without knowing what's going on the other side,
pictorially, and again, you tell me, Wayne, if this is needed, but it might be helpful if just a really simple area map
Yeah,
where,
that
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
everything Sean owns.
and I know it's been a whole host of years, I get that, but
Yeah,
there have been a lot of lots cut out.
Yep.
And I know this board has discussed, well, where's the water going here and the driveway, and there were wetlands here, and that's on the other side of the road.
Mhm.
You know, putting it, just a simple area map together of showing these were the lots that came out can help put the stormwater issue into context.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
and probably what is to your Sean's advantage is that there's no infrastructure. There's no, he didn't build any roads into his property, which would have
Right.
probably triggered, you know, full-blown SWIP and
Mhm.
post-construction stormwater treatment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's the kind of stuff we have to evaluate, you know?
Okay. All right. So does that automatically trigger us to a major subdivision? Or can we provide that to you and still do this under a minor?
Well, in my mind, it's a separate issue.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. I think if the board's okay, I do think this would still constitute a minor subdivision
Okay.
application.
Yeah.
From a subdivision review standpoint.
Okay.
But they would need to analyze stormwater
More
compliance.
in-depth.
Yep.
Okay.
And look, not to go crazy, but again, segmentation. When I said earlier, I think the number of years is relevant. I think it is. I think some of this goes back, not just to 2008, but didn't it predate 2008?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these original lots over here, I think were 2000,
It-
2003. So it's been.
It's been a number of years,
That I was involved with,
but it was a lot. So
yeah, it's been
you know,
20 years.
from a
of
subdivision
slow
standpoint,
development.
from a subdivision standpoint, can you put together a common plan where there was maybe an intent to break this up into little pieces so you never got a full look? You know, if it were 5 or 6 years, I think it's a good basis to say, hey, wait a minute. If it's closing in on 20 years, that in my opinion, gets a little bit tougher of an argument. So from a subdivision review standpoint, I don't think there's any issue with a minor
Okay.
if the board's in agreement with that. You're going to go through the same procedure. You're going to hold a public hearing. You're going to review your subdivision review standards. But Wayne's got to be comfortable with stormwater
Sure.
compliance.
Yeah, sure. That's all I needed. I just needed to know the particulars. Are there any questions regarding the present layout or any of that I could answer tonight? Or should I just work on having Steve get together this additional information before we get into the particulars?
I would be more comfortable if we got the stormwater, management issues clarified before because that could trigger a
It
major
does.
subdivision.
I don't know that it's going to trigger a major subdivision, but it may result in some things that need to be considered in connection with this subdivision to meet stormwater compliance.
All right.
So I do think it's a good idea to address the stormwater.
Okay. All right, fine. Sounds good.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Yep. All right, thank you, folks.
Do you want to be placed tentatively on the next agenda, or do you think you're going to have that stuff?
No.
Okay. And we'll just let us know when you want to come on.
I'll do that. I'll let Chuck know next time I want to be on the agenda for this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good. Okay. Next, we have CBE North America. And this is in regard to our referral letter to the town board. And I believe everybody did receive a draft of that. There was one thing that should be noted, that the town board did amend the request to include the small access road. And that was done formally at their last meeting, so we did receive a copy of that basically now will complete our recommendation, or our process of recommendation, let's put it that way. So we have a draft here, and we'd like to go over the draft with you,
Sure.
okay?
And I didn't,
Well, with the board, we're gonna do that.
Can you make a copy of that?
And if everybody's in agreement, we'll move forward.
Yeah, thanks. We'll grab you a copy.
thank you, sir.
Please.
He's going to get copies of the draft, is that?
Just one, you have the copy, correct? That was circulated?
Yeah.
He's making one additional copy, so Jared can review it with us.
Okay. Do you want to go through the preliminaries while we're waiting, or?
Well, okay, I'm not sure there are preliminaries, but
Okay.
again, the petition for the zone change is pending in front of the town board. Russ is correct. Last week's town board meeting, there was an amended resolution adopted by the town board clarifying that There are 2 parcels subject to the petition for rezone. It includes the Cesny parcel on which the panels are located, but also the smaller parcel over which the access road is located. Both request to extend the agricultural overlay onto those parcels. The town board resolution did also direct coordination of lead agency for seeker purposes, and that the town board did seek to establish itself as lead agency, so those notices will be sent out. An amended referral was sent to the county, just to clarify the record that the rezone petition did cover 2 parcels, and an amended referral was sent to this board. Really didn't alter or change your deliberation. You knew about the 2 parcels when you were deliberating at your last meeting, and that deliberation was the basis for the putting together the draft that we'll review momentarily.
If you want to get started, I can catch up. Oh, there he is.
Actually, he had mine, so thank you. Okay,
Mine's on my kitchen table.
how do you want to proceed, Russ?
Well, we can just start to review the draft.
Sure. You want me to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is in the form of a memorandum from this board to the town board. It would constitute the recommendation of this board on the request for the zone change. It certainly identifies the section of the zoning law on which the petition was based and the referral made. The paragraph 2 on page 1 of this simply does go through what the petition for the rezone seeks. Some of this is procedural. The planning board considered the rezoning petition at meetings held August 19, September 2, and this evening, September 16. Your entire project team was here for the meetings on August 19 and September 2 and presented the proposal, including the request for the rezone, and responded to questions and comments from the planning board members. Now, this goes through the planning board members acknowledge that a majority of the proposed project site is zoned to allow large-scale commercial solar systems as permitted uses. The planning board members further acknowledge the existence of wetland areas on the project site that the applicant seeks to avoid in order to reduce total wetland impacts from the project, and also the existence of slopes on the property which the applicant seeks to avoid in order to reduce site grading that would otherwise be required for the project. Some members of the planning board identified concern that the rezoning of these 2 tax parcels to allow this proposed project to proceed through municipal review would establish an undesirable precedent, potentially fostering future rezoning petitions to allow other projects to proceed that were otherwise not allowable under the zoning law. So that was part of your deliberations at your last meeting. Planning board members did not identify any significant issues with the proposed rezoning of, I'll call it tax map parcel 53.3, as the parcel is limited in size and the proposed use of the parcel is for the access road only. However, the planning board members did voice concern over the rezoning of tax parcel 54, as this parcel is considerably larger in size and is situated on both sides of North Lake Avenue with significant road frontage. So this is the kind of conclusion, which is upon further deliberation, the planning board recommends that the town board consider approval of the petition for rezoning subject to the following. 1, that parcel 53.3 be rezoned to include the entire parcel in the AO district, subject to the condition that the use of the parcel in connection with this proposed commercial solar collector system project be limited to the access road only as described in the application materials. You presented that it's for the access road. This is, if I can use the phrase, bait and switch. We don't want it amended to, or the petition granted that whole parcel rezoned to be included in AO, and then the application amended to add more panels. So That would be one condition that I think was discussed. Number two, regarding tax parcel 54, any rezoning to extend the AO district should not include the entire parcel, but rather should be limited to only the area proposed for panels and related solar equipment as shown on the site development plan. While this results in a single parcel being split between two zoning districts, the planning board acknowledges that this is legally permissible and preferable in this case. The rezoning of tax parcel 54 is being requested in connection with this specific project, and the rezoning should not be extended to the remainder of parcel 54, as no showing has been made to support the rezoning of the remainder of this parcel outside of the proposed solar use area. That was what was generally discussed, I believe, at the last meeting. And again, this is in draft form. You can amend this as you see fit. This concludes that the planning board emphasizes that it finds this situation to be unique in that the proposed solar field is primarily located on property that was historically used as one continuous agricultural field that happened to cover two separate parcels, with one parcel located in the AO zoning district and one parcel not located in the AO zoning district. While some planning board members identified their concern of the precedential effect of this rezoning, the planning board recommendation urges the town board to condition any rezoning only to that portion of parcel 54 that is proposed for the solar field use, and that which was historically used as one continuous agricultural field.
That seems reasonable to me. I just had one comment in the second line, or excuse me, the fourth line down in condition 2. It said, I'm generally fine with the concept of limiting that the area to be, regarding tax parcel 54, any rezoning to extend the AO district should not include the entire parcel, but rather should be limited only to the area proposed for panels and related solar equipment. I think that might be a little bit narrowing if the fence, you know what I mean? I don't know if a fence is solar equipment. So if
That's
we could
true.
just,
That's fair.
So we say equipment related to the solar installation or other, you know what I mean? I want to be able, the infrastructure, again, not trying to expand it, but as a fence is, whatever is there necessary, because I'm not.
Business, we call it appurtenances.
Yeah, whatever you would like to call it, but just allow for.
I liked your language first, which would be limited to the area proposed for panels and equipment related to the solar installation. I think that covers it. Or it could be an appurtenance, right?
Yeah, or, fences, because I don't think there'll be anything except equipment and fences. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to add fence to it, I think that would provide that any issue.
So equipment and fence related to the solar installation.
Anyone have any comments? While everybody's thinking, I'll make a comment. At our last meeting, I was opposed to the entire parcel being rezoned. I find that the limitations on parcel number 54, as you've stated them, to be acceptable, and I would agree to that as making a recommendation. Kevin, you have any comments?
No, I'm good.
Andy? You good? Linda? Dave?
It's fine.
Then, based on what you presented, I would say to put this in proper form and submit it to the town board for our recommendation.
Right, I'm going to reread then what I've written as the first sentence of item number 2
Okay?
on page 2 regarding tax map parcel number 91-2-54. Any rezoning to extend the AO district should not include the entire parcel, but rather should be limited to only the area proposed for panels and equipment and fence related to the solar installation as shown on the site development plan. And the balance remains as drafted. With that amendment, if the board is supportive of the recommendation as amended, you should make a motion to approve it and direct that it be forwarded to the town board.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion.
You're going to make that motion? Okay, do I have a second? Okay, is there any further discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There you go.
Everyone have a great night.
All right.
When do you expect that this will be on the town board agenda? Do you have any idea now at this point?
I do not think for October, but likely November. And the reason for that primarily is it makes sense to get the lead agency coordination done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody have a great day and thank you very much.
Okay,
I
you're
said
welcome.
night, I
Thank you.
didn't say that.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Berry minor subdivision. This was under new business at our last meeting and now is presented to the board.
All right, so, this project, James Berry and his wife did this survey for him 2 years ago. They own 21.94 acres over here, right on the intersection of Garfield Road and Fitting Lane. And, beautiful old house with a couple of small barns and some horse paddocks, little sand riding green. And they'd like to subdivide the property into 3 lots. There'll be one lot here, which I'm calling lot 1, which will be 2.34 acres, contain the existing house and barns, and 2 of the 3 paddocks. The second lot would be here on Fitting Lane, 0.38 acres. And the last lot would be kind of like a keyhole lot and would be the remainder, 17.22 acres. The property's really very flat. You can see the contours we got in here. There's a wetland down in here, but there's, ample space up in here for someone to build on lot 3.
How wide is your access to lot 3?
The access will be 50 feet wide, so they'll have 50 feet on Fitting Lane. But then I thought we would keep it a little narrower, just 30 feet going in, because that's all they need for a driveway.
Well, it's gonna be one of those 150-foot driveways or whatever it is, so you're gonna have to
Yes.
be wider, but 30 ought to do it.
Yeah, it'll have to meet the spec.
But 30 will fit in there.
Yeah.
It'll fit in a 30 foot.
Max to 26 and 500, so 26 foot width for 500 foot driveway.
It's 26?
Yeah.
Or 16 with two,
Yeah.
16.
With the
total of
turnaround.
16 with two foot shoulders.
16 with 2 3-foot
Wing,
For the town, yes.
wings, I think, right?
wing gutters.
Whatever, I think 32 will be.
It will be.
Yeah.
I think it's 22 for the
22.
private driveway over 150 feet.
Over 500 is wider?
Wait a second. What are you saying about this? No, I'm
He says over 500 is wider, but it's
The
fire
fire
access
access road versus private driveway.
Yeah. Well, it won't be anywhere near 500 feet, but unless they want to do something crazy and build way down back, in which case,
They have to get a wetland permit.
yeah, no, they can't, they can't cross that, so.
What is that, 1,000? I don't know what.
From here to here is 250 feet. So there's a nice hedgerow here. I can just picture them going back just behind that hedgerow. Building in there.
okay.
Couple hundred, 250, 300 feet in.
And is there a house on the Bruno property?
There's a house here on this Bruno parcel. is that
Yeah.
the one? Yeah, yep.
Oh,
There, I don't have the house shown, but their driveway is right off that little cul-de-sac.
Yep.
And it's right there,
Right there, yeah. Okay.
right close to the
Once I
road.
said the name. Now I remember. Oh, brick,
Okay,
2-story.
all right.
What's that say?
It says for 501 to 750 feet in length, it's 26 feet wide. The road.
After you get above 750, it's,
Above 750 is special approval required. I don't know what special approval required is. What does that usually mean? More than 26 feet?
See the fire chief.
see the fire
You
chief.
see the fire chief? Okay.
In Wayne.
Does it also require certain types of turnarounds on the property?
Yeah, that's down there too.
Yeah.
The hammerhead or the cul-de-sac style.
Okay.
I thought those were.
That's part of the fire code, right?
Exactly. Which we,
Okay, does anybody
You
have
think it's
any
going to be
questions?
250 to 300 likely?
That's what I'm thinking.
It's over there.
Yeah, because the distance in off the fitting lane is 250.
Appendix D.
I'm assuming,
Makes
probably
sense.
around.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we require a public hearing on a minor subdivision. So does anybody have any questions? And Wayne, do you see any reason why we can't have a public hearing based on the material that we've received here?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't have a public hearing.
Okay. So, any other questions? And we'll schedule a public hearing for our next meeting, which is on October 7th. Is that correct?
I cannot make that meeting.
Okay, that might be good anyway, because I think we may have another public hearing on that. So,
I would prefer the third Thursday if I could. Only because I have a conflict with the town of Pittsdown, and right now I've got 5 or 6 projects going on in that town.
Okay,
So if I could come on the third Thursday.
that's fine. That works for us.
Yeah.
Okay then.
so I know for the public hearing, what is the address of the residence now on the area?
449 Garfield.
449 Garfield.
Yes.
You'll be back with Galavan then, the third Thursday of October?
I don't know if I will. I'm gonna get to talk with Steve tomorrow, explain, maybe have him call Wayne direct. If Steve thinks he can have something for me to bring and present, or, you know, work something out with Wayne prior to the third week, then maybe I would wanna come back. But we'll see.
Okay.
All right?
Well, we'll notice the public hearing for the 21st.
That gives us plenty of time, right? Because,
Oh, yeah.
This is always. Great, thank you very much.
Actually, this works out well because this is what we normally now schedule a public hearing. You know, I get the.
It was. This is one of those quirky months where there's
Where
3
you have
weeks.
a few extra.
Yeah, yeah. But no worries.
Okay.
21st
No, it
works.
better for me.
Okay, we have other new business. Did you want on any of that? Are you done for
No,
tonight?
this is all I had for tonight.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay, thank
can,
you.
that's all I can take.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Take care.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, fifth on our agenda is Manikato LLC. Now, as everybody, I think remembers, at our last meeting, we had a decision made that there was 2 primary uses on one parcel, which is not allowed. So now I believe Mr. Morley has a different proposal here as a subdivision.
Yes.
Okay,
The last page of your handout is the map. Rod Michaels was prepared it today, and it divides the 2.71 acres into 2 parcels. One would be Lot 1A, which the current building is on, and Lot 1B would be where the proposed parking would be for the school buses for a tentative time period.
I did notice one thing, just on the subdivision for the parking lot, the western border seems to be right up against the parking spots. Is there any type of setback that has to be enforced on that?
We, I believe we had a setback on the car wash of, I want to say 50 feet or something like that.
What I'm basically talking about is the side setback on the parking places versus the,
I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I thought the setback had to be against the residential parcel, right? Or commercial parking.
There is that requirement under the zoning law for a business use adjacent to a residential use. There is.
but this is,
Commercial to commercial, I don't believe there's any setback.
all right, okay. I just thought I'd ask because I noticed that the striping is right next to the boundary line. Okay.
There's no setbacks off the front.
And they're both owned by the same entity, so an easement across 1A to access to Route 40 is not required.
Yeah, we put the property line at the edge of the blacktop. Originally, we were going to split the blacktop. We found it would be better to put it at the edge of the blacktop. Then we'd have a joint driveway agreement with 1A and 1B to share the expenses of the maintenance and future repaving of it. So you'll see a little difference in the acreage that was put on this map versus what was in the seeker portion of it.
Is there a calculation for green space?
We got a lot of green space on the whole site. We don't have I haven't done the calculation on that for this particular use. We had it for when we did the car wash in the building originally. So I gave,
Well, it should be on the map, I think. And I think you need 35%. So
okay. I'm not sure we'd be able to get 35%, but we'll have them calculate that out and have that for you.
If it isn't paved, it's still a crusher rock, is an impervious
Mhm.
ground. Does that count into the
that's the rule.
the green space?
No.
No.
And remember, the 35% green space is a consideration, but again, in certain circumstances, you do have the ability to waive or reduce that.
We ought to have a calculation done.
Absolutely, to make that determination, yep.
We'll split that up for each lot.
And maybe this area would.
Not much there. We got protection for the fire hydrant.
You're already protecting the fire hydrant, so if we could, if we gained 3% and got you over 35, that might prove beneficial for everybody.
See what you come up with. But they're done as separate lots or one lot, Andy?
This should be done on separate lots,
Right.
because there'll be two separate uses.
So you have to figure it on the lot 1A too then, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Now, Andy, on this, this is the application for the minor subdivision. Does this coincide with the site plan review or the original site plan review?
I would suggest that pending in front of you was an application to amend the site plan, and now there's been an application in conjunction with that to divide the parcel, that they should be reviewed concurrently.
Okay.
Certainly, the subdivision has a mandatory public hearing. The amendment to the site plan, that was within your discretion, but now in conjunction with the subdivision, there'll be a mandatory public hearing. You will need to act on the subdivision first in order to then proceed with the site plan just for the proposed parking area on Lot 1B.
So it'd be one public hearing for two.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be noticed as a public hearing for a proposed subdivision and amendment to the site plan.
All right.
Is parking as a primary use allowed in that zone?
It is, that, I'll let Chuck concur on that. The parking of the buses as a standalone use on a lot is allowable in the light industrial districts. Yep.
For storage of buses.
We in a position to schedule a public hearing or?
We can schedule a public hearing, and conveniently, between now and our next meeting is 3 weeks. So we could stick this public hearing on October 7th, if we chose to, provided that, according to Wayne, there's enough information, completeness of the application and everything, to provide materials for the public hearing.
I still don't see contours on site plan. I would like to have a full-size plan to the proper scale for review. I'd like to see some as-built features, like where, because the building is there and the parking for the building is there, I'd like to see it more as an as-built. And I'd also like to see the as-built stormwater facilities. So I could properly kind of look at the contours and see that the grading and the stormwater all works.
Okay, with that in mind, is this material that you can get to Wayne within a reasonable amount of time?
You get them next week.
Okay. And if there's any problems, let us know immediately.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of detail on this. It's just a parking lot, but
Okay,
Yeah.
there's items missing that are required for site plan.
okay. Andy?
Mhm.
Can we proceed ahead with a public hearing based on those remarks?
Well, my opinion on this would be yes. We do have 3 weeks. As Wayne said, the proposed use is simply an open parking lot. It's got the proposed layout for the parking plan. The subdivision is fairly straightforward, dividing the existing parcel in two. Certainly that technical information is going to be needed to be reviewed by Wayne before the board could act on this, but it'd be my opinion that on this particular proposal, that there's enough information for the public to hold a public hearing. You concur with that, Wayne?
I would.
So it appears we can still meet that timeline that we discussed previously about having a public hearing on the 7th, first meeting in October. Okay? So we will schedule that for 7 o'clock on that date. It'll be first on the agenda. And just make sure you get all that information to Wayne.
Yep.
All right?
Tom, that berm and gravel that's over, that you pushed off to the one side, is that used as screening?
No, everything's gonna be, what's gonna be brought in is the pressure run material.
So that excess.
That's just gonna be,
That's gonna be removed?
well, there's just on the side slope there, so that's all gonna be seeded and everything.
Gotcha. So that's gonna stay. It's
Yes.
there.
Yep. Nothing's coming off the site.
And that's beyond the parking spots, that berm?
Just about, yeah. It's close to right in the edge of it. But we haven't got Rod Michaels out there to actually do the contours yet, so that's been the problem, getting him out on the site. So hopefully next week he's kind of slowed down a little bit now that the schools are all done, so.
All right, does anybody have any other questions? I think
Thank
we're
you.
all set. All right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, that concludes our regular agenda. We now have 2 items
That's fine. Well, at least I could read it.
Under new business, first one I have is the waiver subdivision for Jeffrey Green. Is it Green? No, it's Jeannie.
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 Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. Come on up. Tell us what you're gonna do.
Basically, we want to correct the property line between my lot and Mike Centeni's and straighten that out. He misled me many years ago when I built my house there, as far as where the line was, which is what he thought, that line of pine trees that's there on the map. And evidently it wasn't, because when he had the property surveyed, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, we discovered that the line was not straight as he thought. And basically, we're just trying to get that straightened out.
Okay.
I will have a letter from Mike saying that he's okay with all this subdivision stuff, or this lot line adjustment. Prior to the meeting, I have spoken with him, so I should have it in the next day or two, and I'll get the copies to Chuck so he can distribute them. So, as far as my septic system, it's actually in the back of my house. And the present property line doesn't affect my septic system, and the new line would actually give me more space if I had to expand my system in the future, but
And the shed is yours?
that's my shed that I didn't realize was half on his property. So,
Okay. Oh, the shed up there, okay.
yeah, way in the back there,
All right.
so.
Now you have, what's your water supply? Is that
City water
sewer water? Okay.
comes in the front left corner. So,
Wayne, do you see any issues on this?
No,
Anybody have any questions? I mean, we could move forward on this right tonight, couldn't we?
No, not without the letter
not
from
without the letter.
Mike Centeni, the
Well, I would-
adjacent.
Conditional on the letter.
Hmm,
You don't want to do
I'd be
that?
more comfortable to have that in.
Okay,
That-
I tried.
That's all right.
All right, then we'll put you on the agenda for our next meeting.
Sorry.
Long for
That's all
50
right.
years.
That's all right. All right, so that's the 27th, or what is it?
October 7th,
7?
7th.
7, okay.
All right,
7. All right, yep, as
Perfect.
soon as I get that letter, I'll get it down here. So, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Next, we have a special use permit application from Zach, how do you pronounce that last name?
Fiorio,
Fiorio?
Froyo, yeah. This one needs a little bit of explanation.
Is that the woman that just left? or-
I don't believe so. This gentleman, the other gentleman that came in, what he would like is he's going for the special use permit for a home occupation. And it's a little unique in that the home occupation is selling firearms, in which he does not sell anything, in a retail manner. He simply acts as a straw man, takes the orders via the internet, and also via the internet gets the orders to the brick and mortar store, in which they supply the product and the background checks and everything else. So he is simply sitting on the computer doing that. It has,
Where is 502 Pinewoods? Whereabouts?
it's the place up on the hill, just sold,
Oh, okay.
just on the other side of the power lines.
Yep. Yep, I know exactly where it is, yep. So there's no storage,
No storage there,
nothing,
storage of ammo,
no ammo, no nothing.
How many employees?
sitting on a computer.
Off the record, you sound like an arms dealer. Back on the record.
It's kind of unique in, the
Is
whole-
this a startup business or has he been in this business before?
That is a good question, I did not know. I did not.
I mean, is he just moving at home? Did he have an office someplace? Maybe that's, I mean, I don't know if it's relevant to the application, but
He didn't move in all that long ago, the house hasn't,
okay, all
wasn't
right,
sold all that long ago, so.
all right.
So does he have to have a separate entrance to the area of the home that he's going to use as the home occupation? Sure.
If he's expecting people in there, yes, there's not gonna be anybody going in or out.
So he has no traffic in and out, there's no requirements for parking, there's nothing, okay. Is he gonna do this in his home or this detached garage? Is that his office?
I assume it's the home.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of unique.
Yeah.
Special use permits require a public hearing.
Yep.
When you post the public hearing, do you have to post what he's going to do? I mean, if he's going to sell wholesale, whatever, firearms, I'm sure that would raise a few eyebrows.
Doesn't say that on the application.
Let's review the home occupation. I'm sure you did this, Chuck, but always a good idea. All occupations conducted in residential districts shall meet the special use permit requirements as outlined in Article 8 and shall conform to the following. 1, the home occupation shall be carried on only by a member or members of the family residing in the dwelling unit. One employee who is not part of the family is permitted. 2, the home occupation shall be carried on entirely within the principal or accessory structures and shall not exceed 30% of the total building floor space, excluding accessory and outbuildings. Exterior 3, exterior displays or signs other than those permitted under Article 10. Exterior storage of materials and exterior indication that a home occupation exists or variation for the residential character of the principal structure shall be prohibited. 4, objectionable circumstances, including those which are visual, together with dust, electrical disturbance, odors, noise, heat, glare, shall not be produced. 5, parking shall be provided off-street and shall not be located in front yards except for a maximum of 3 cars. And 6, seasonal services may be permitted, provided that those services are personal in nature and are offered within the dwelling occupied by the same, i.e. income tax prep. So it sounds like it meets those, right?
Yeah.
I don't see anything on the application or the other material provided that it is so many square feet of his business. Is that necessary to have on the application?
We'll have to confirm it can't be
More than 30%.
more than 30% of the
I can't
principal
imagine if
structure.
he's not storing any inventory. I can imagine.
That's right.
3 square feet? How long does it take to put up a
Depending upon the size
computer
of the
and your
monitor, yeah.
chair? Yeah.
My wife works from home. She has an office, multiple computers and stuff like that
Mhm.
as a case manager. And I'm entitled to write off a certain amount of that on taxes because percentage-wise, mine only comes to like 11%. You know, it's one row. So I can't imagine it being more than 30%.
So on your issue of what needs to be included in the notice of public hearing, I'll review that.
Yeah,
I mean, it will
certainly,
be.
I don't think, he wants to hide anything. I at this point. I would,
Well, correct, it's a matter of public record of what he's proposing to do, so.
yeah,
It is for use as a home occupation, and from what it sounds like, despite the item, it is really an internet-based retail sale.
yeah. It's license to buy and sell firearms, ammunitions, and optics/accessories.
What is an FFL business?
Oh, federal firearm license.
I think you should
Well, you certainly
print
can
that out.
word it
before
any way you want.
abbreviate Something like that.
Oh, get a copy of the
Hmm?
license.
No,
I
but
have
I
no,
think when you
Oh.
do
You know, objection
FFL,
how you,
somewhere I'd say
you want to word the
federal
public
firearm
hearing.
Yeah,
license,
yep.
for instance, FFL.
We'll work.
I know what ATF is.
But we're going to schedule this for October 7th, or should we,
To be on the regular agenda and we talk about it as a board, right?
yeah, we're going to put them on the agenda.
Yeah.
Not schedule a public hearing at this point.
I think you should, yeah, right, have him in, fully understand that everything you need is in, and then
Okay.
schedule a public hearing.
So he will go on our agenda for our next regular meeting on the 7th. Okay. That is all I have under new business. Is there any other additional new business?
I have one question. We had a special use permit to put towers on the Gilead Lutheran Church. I've had an inquiry from another cell provider. In other words, they're going to put a second cell provider on that tower. Not tower, the belfry of the church. Do they need to go for a special permit for a second provider in that the cell tower has already been approved for the church?
Did we put any limits on how many providers originally on the?
Right, you'll have to
You
review.
have to check that
Yeah,
out.
look at that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep, that was
I
it.
thought there was already two on there. I thought there was already two up there.
Quite possibly. There are 1, 2, 3, I think there are 3 or 4 antenna arrays. But
I didn't
they
know
did
one
a
of the
really great
first cell
job.
tower
They changed the
applications
colors
we actually
uh,
had.
and it just matches really good. You have to look and see that there's antennas there.
There's a dead spot up 7 from there. You don't get reception up to Capital Ag. Like, you can't
Very
get.
convenient to mark, isn't it?
Any other stuff? you know, Pat? Any other new business?
That was it.
Any old business that you want to discuss? Any old business, anyone?
What's the deal with Aldi's? And have they come back at all since we approved them?
No, but the Kentucky Fried Chicken has,
What's
is
going to happen?
moving forward with that.
Yeah, the Kentucky Fried Chicken site work's going to actually start on that next week. And they're going to move all of the parking for Planet Fitness over into the empty lot. Do the site work there, hopefully get the Planet Fitness people back there with at least a base coat of blacktop for the winter time. And then, depending upon what the winter's like, what they can get done on the other side. But Kentucky
I
Fried
understand.
Chicken will be number one.
I seem to remember that according to Jamie Easton, it was going to be first the Kentucky Fried Chicken, then it was going to be the Wendy's, and the Aldi's was going to be the last one. I might have those two switched.
When's the light going? When's the light going?
The light is supposed to be working on it, according to the Hanford people. They're supposed to do the preliminary work in the fall and finish it up in the springtime. And I got the impression from that discussion, well, you weren't here for that, were you? Were you here for that? You came in late. According to them, we had some discussion about, the traffic study, and there's actually a condition now in the draft we just did. for,
Yep, draft conditions.
Draft conditions for the proposal that the light be installed before they were issued a CO. Based on when we had to do the post-traffic studies and so forth and so on.
So the board did ask the projected construction schedule for the store and how that dovetailed, because MJ is doing the engineering work for Leon, how that dovetailed with the light installation. And their response was they're doing some of the preliminary work with the DOT work permit this fall. They've ordered the balance of all the equipment to put the light in. There's, according to them, lead time for that, and then they'll install in the spring. But Rich Rosen did confirm they're not looking to open up the Hannaford store until that light's operational. People think about it, would not be able to get in and out. So,
Did you get the new maps on the trucking and stuff?
Yeah, did you get that?
Oh, yeah.
That one?
Yeah, there's a new trucker.
He had a limited amount of these. I don't know if you got
Actually, they're
one.
both the same. They're both fake.
I'll make a copy of it.
No, originally you had to go to the
If
bond.
it is, it's in the bottom of this.
I thought it was Fain up in
Fanes and
Where does it all
Melrose, and
time
I
check?
think Bond is up in Scottsdale.
What do you think that?
That's a faint pit here, though.
What do you think that route distance is?
yeah, so where's it coming from now?
Fane.
Fain, and, well, at the Old Lenny on 66.
It's
outside of Wamskill.
Yeah. Yep.
But they're proposing to go over 15th Street.
Come down that hill.
Well, that's coming out of the old line pit. Yeah. That's Warren's got a drag line in there. You get in there? Man, that guy's, he's clever.
What's that?
He's clever. Warren's got a drag line in there to get the gravel out of all that water, underneath all that water. Pretty cool.
It's gotta be one hell of a hole in there.
Yeah.
And drag it, well, his place on 40s. I mean, they keep pulling stuff out of there too.
These guys come up with such creative ways to get more gravel out of these sites because it's so hard to get new
Permits.
pits
Well,
permitted.
like that one at Fain has on 66. There's a lake in the middle of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lake you could probably stock trout in for crying out loud. It's huge.
That's what he just said. They use a drag line to get it out of there.
Yeah. A lot of these facilities have lakes that large because they keep going
The old
deeper. and
quarries and
deeper.
all have the,
Yeah.
So the gravel washing you really need as a source.
okay. Anybody have any other issues?
So I just want to confirm,
Yes, let's see
Special-
the agenda.
special meeting next Thursday, 7 PM, joint with the ZBA, discussion of the Lord Avenue project only.
You get paid overtime for that, right?
You bet. October 7th meeting, Mato Pato, public hearing at 7 PM. And then Jeannie and this last one, Froyo, because Brian Holberter's not ready for the 7th and he'll be back.
Yeah.
Certainly with the one on the 21st and possibly with Galavan on the 21st.
Mhm. Yeah, there's a public hearing scheduled for Barry on the 21st. A public hearing for Murley on the 7th.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Just, is everybody plan on attending this meeting next Thursday?
Yes.
Okay. Because we're probably going to move forward after tweaking some of the conditions on the proposal. After they get done, hopefully, granting the variance on the pole height, then the meeting's going to come over to us. We have to make an amendment to the
To the secret determination initially.
determination first. Then they do their thing, then it comes back to us, and then we're going to hopefully hammer out the whole thing for Hannaford and proceed along with that.
Do we think that the ZBA will ask for screening mitigation for the lighting?
They may.
Yeah, there has been talk of that, yes.
And that could be a condition of the site plan, or that would be, the ZBA can't issue conditional use.
No, they can on the area variance, absolutely. Conditions that are reasonable and as a result of their review of so they can, and you're right, there was a lot of discussion about that. There was a lot of discussion overall.
Yeah.
Monday night.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised.
Went on for a while.
I'm just surprised that they didn't, come up with a determination.
We were close a few times.
Well, yes, as I said, if they push for that determination, I'm not sure exactly which one they would have
Right,
received.
Sometimes it's better to back up and.
Yeah.
Try
Well,
again.
we were talking about this, I mean, the lighting in Walmart's and Price Chopper are both like 20 feet or so.
30 price.
No, they're higher.
Yeah,
higher.
30 is price shopper.
Yeah.
And if they were going to reduce the number of poles by 12 poles, going to 21 feet, I thought that was a plus. But, I mean, from where they are, another 6 feet, really doesn't make too much difference.
It may depend on the houses down. Now they're looking up, and they're looking up again at the light, even if it's dark sky compliant. Still see the light.
Some of those houses are gonna be looking straight the same elevation as a light pole, I think. The ones-
And that is what that is.
The
what
ones on the other side of
board-
Lord
The
Ave.
zoning board is trying to determine, unfortunately, the visual assessment that was given, you couldn't ascertain that.
The ones on the ones on the other side of Lord Ave. Is
That was one of their questions, like second story on the east side of Lord Avenue. What are they going to see?
It's, my mother says that the help comes in at 5 and turns the yard lights on, shines right in her eyes and her recliner where she sleeps. So I got the same problem at home.
It's 5
All right,
Yeah, 5 a.m.
are we done? We have the agenda set. Does anybody have any additional questions?
So
If not, I'll
we
make a
went over
motion.
public hearings for the agenda, right?
We did.
And, but for the regular agenda items, we got Hannaford on the 23rd. We expect them back on the 7th?
No,
No.
the game plan would be they'll be.
Yeah.
Your problem.
And CBE will not be back?
Not until the town board.
Oh, that's
Finishes.
right.
No, they have
Another
to-
buy on the town board.
And you said that they probably won't even address that until possibly November.
Right.
So with that in mind, I don't think we're going to see him for a while. Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Well, I was wrong.
Between get alter and they have an hour to a meeting.
They're talkers, right?
You can't make a comment, I understand.
I get it. It's an apt observation.
She knows about it.
For some reason,
You
I was
can't
really
speak.
happy with this thing. Andrew.
Not asking you to concur.
I didn't have any problem with it. Now I can't shut it off.
She's doing her job.
One thing, disconnect here, disabling the camera, that will shut it off. Isn't that something?
Went through all that, and I just think shut it off.
Do you think the neighbors?
Yes,
You did everything.
but I sent
That's-
Caleb back with her car.
Special, like every step, and approved it.